Добро вечер, гледате Клик Плюс, јас сум Боријан Јовановски. Сезоната ја започнуваме со многу неизвестности, како на домашен план, така на регионален и на геополитички план. Особено ако се има во предвид оние случувања и развојот на ситуацијата по Путиновата агресија на Украина. Што се случува сега и што може да очекуваме дека ќе се случува во блиска иднина или во подалечна иднина? Денеска мој гостин е Едвард Џозеф, професор на Џон Хопкинс универзитетот во Вашингтон за решавање на конфликти. Инаку добар пријател на Македонија. Edward, it's a great pleasure to meet you as always. Last time we met in June in Ohrid.
Yes.
So now it's September. How things seems to you? Any changes from June till now? And something different happened? How it looks like for you?
Sure.
The situation in Macedonia.
Yes, Bojan, great to be with you and your viewers. Very nice to be back in this beautiful country. And I came back this time, you're right, I was in Ohrid in June, and now I came back for this conference at American University College in Skopje, and I gave a keynote speech, and the point addressed your question exactly. What I said was we have a paradox. We have a paradox. The world changed on February 24th with the Russian invasion, but the Balkans didn't change. And the Balkans still have not changed. And this is what is remarkably astonishing. We have dramatic changes throughout the west of Europe and the United States. We have this close...
In which way?
We have a very
Speaking
positive...
about changes.
Very positive. And this is why this is such a paradox.
Well, if we talk about Italy, when the far right is going to win...
Yes, but Italy is a specific case. It's not necessarily a reaction to something about right-wing politics. They changed their electoral law. They changed the system. They have now a new system of governing. So they have a right-wing elements there. It's not that they're so big in Italy. It's that they're very motivated and mobilized. And they have a new electoral system, so we have to see what happens. Okay, and hopefully this, but it is not as if there's some sweeping across Italy some popularity for all of this pro-Putin and populism. That's not true. Even if they come out on top, they have a new electoral system. It's very strange, and it's very difficult to predict exactly how it will
Let's
come out.
still in the region.
But
what do you expect to be changed in the region?
Well, this is what should have changed, Bojan. What should have changed is we have this unprecedented unity between the United States and Europe. We have unprecedented awareness in Europe about the threat from Vladimir Putin and the threat from the authoritarianism that he represents. President Biden, since he came in, said we have a choice between democracy and autocracy. That choice. And now we see President Biden was right, that we see how dangerous...
So your point is that Balkans could not choose the way.
Exactly. And so instead, we should have had we've had dramatic changes in Germany. We've had dramatic change. Look, this what they call in Germany, Zeitenwende. They now realize their eyes are open to who Vladimir Putin is. They know that the Merkel policy and the Schroeder policy of trying to do business with Vladimir Putin was a mistake. And I hope your viewers understand, Vladimir Putin is now threatening nuclear war. Do you want nuclear war on the continent of Europe? And let me say something else to your viewers here who remember Yugoslavia. Do you remember Chernobyl? 1986, radiation from Chernobyl came here.
We felt it, yeah.
You felt it here. People probably got sick and probably got cancer. They known in higher rates because of
Some critics
Chernobyl.
will say that NATO bombs also provoke cancer.
This is false. This has been investigated. They did not use uranium. This is one of these false accusations, false allegations. In democracy, institutions and leaders are held accountable. You can't keep the secrets.
Why do you think, why Balkan is not able to choose the the right path.
This was the subject.
I'm saying it's the right path to choose the democracy is the right path. But still, yeah, you're right.
And you asked the right question. But I want to emphasize this. The viewers here, anyone here who thinks, oh, I support Russia, I support Vladimir Putin, you have to understand the risk you're putting yourself and your entire family over. They are behaving recklessly, even attacking, let me just finish, attacking Chernobyl and Zaporizhia, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. So even if you don't care about all the death and destruction of Ukraine, which did not provoke this war, this was a Russian-provoked war, Vladimir Putin, even if you don't care about any of that, you should care about the own health of yourself, your family, and your country, and Vladimir Putin is threatening that. So the question is, why are there no changes, and why do people still support?
We agree. I mean, I agree that this support for Putin, it's pretty much irrational.
Yes.
But however, what do you think is the reason behind this support?
I will tell you, okay, look, we have to understand that the blame for this is shared. The blame is shared among the leaders in the region, who are very self-dealing, a lot of corruption, not really dedicated to reform. I don't speak about all. I'm not speaking about all, but you have what we call a self-dealing, self-interested political class across the region. And we know the very high rates of corruption. We also have a weak policy of the United States and European Union towards the region. U.S. make two mistakes in principle, and EU. Undervaluing the importance of the region. Oh, this is Balkans, Stadtlandbriga, it's not so important. Underestimating the value of the region, the importance of the region, and overcomplicating it. Most of the problems of the region, these ethno-national divisions, except in two cases with two main problems, are resolvable. They're manageable. All of them, including Bosnia-Herzegovina, that very complex. Kosovo is manageable. Montenegrin situation is manageable. This situation is all manageable with one condition.
Yeah.
With one condition. The countries involved have to be oriented towards the West. And two countries are not completely. Serbia is not. All other neighbors, other than Serbia and Republika Srpska and parties aligned in Montenegro with Serbia and obviously Srpska Lista in Kosovo. Serbia is not aligned with a Western orientation. Does not, under Alexander Vučić, has gone backwards.
Officially, Macedonia is aligned.
Macedonia is aligned. And Macedonia, and your country, North Macedonia, has done the right things. These are good things. Ohrid Agreement is a good agreement. It's a good agreement for Macedonians and Albanians. Why? No territory was involved. Much better than Dayton Agreement. It's a good agreement. It's a stabilizing agreement. Prespa Agreement is a good agreement. It's stabilizing. Greece made concessions to your country.
And in the response of that,
France
we were undermined both by you and the United States.
Exactly.
So the disappointment of the people is real.
I agree with you, Boria. You're absolutely right.
So
you're absolutely right.
Now the question is whether the United States and you are going to change something and understand the importance of Balkan being integrated within you.
This is, Borian, you said it exactly right. This is our responsibility. So this agreement, this French proposal, unlike Ohrid Agreement, unlike Prespa Agreement, those were good agreements. Prespa Agreement, Greece and North Macedonia were on the same level. Those were good, equal negotiations. Greece made compromises. Your country made compromises. That's the way you make a solid agreement. This agreement with Bulgaria, Bulgaria was here, North Macedonia is here. We dictate. Same is the situation, by the way, with Serbia and Kosovo.
Enough reasons for the people to be disappointed by the West.
Enough reasons. So now, now we're in this situation now. How do we get out of it? What is the best for your country?
So what's next?
Yes, your country, look, you have to, it's the time, this is the key word. Borian. It's time to think strategically. Your country has to think strategically. You're a small country, and you have neighbors with these various claims, these historical claims.
It's difficult to ask common people who struggle to survive in their everyday life to think strategically.
No, but they have to. Everyone has to. You have to. It's an obligation of everyone to think. You have to think about. It's another way of saying what is our real interest and what can we do. So look, the real interest, the real security, this is very important, and for citizens of this country, hard-working people who are struggling to survive. Your future, your security in your country is not secure under Serbia. Do not think Alexander Vučić cares about your security. He doesn't. Bulgaria doesn't care about your security either. We know that. Bulgaria is a threat. We understand that. Your only security, the only security for this country is in the larger grouping. Thank God you're in NATO. You would be in much worse shape here. If you were not in NATO, you would have threats and destabilization from Russia and others. So that your only security, European Union. How do you get there? You have to get there. We have to demonstrate to the people of this country that this is real, that European Union is real, and it's going to bring real change, including on tackling corruption. And that's the key point here. In this period between, let me just finish, this period before these amendments, this controversial amendment about Bulgarians.
We'll go there.
I'll get there to a moment. Your country, with support of EU and United States, must make some critical, serious reforms about tackling corruption and also tackling electricity crisis. And this will demonstrate to citizens there is a real process, there's a meaningful process, it will make a difference in my life. But this has to happen now.
Let's talk about it.
Please.
The French, so-called French proposal was criticized by many people, including you.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yes.
It was an unfair proposal.
Yes.
It was accepted by the government.
Yes.
What do you think, what it would be if Macedonia had rejected the French proposal in June?
In June, look, it's problematic.
Talking about the shape of the country.
No, look, it's problematic, and everyone needs to understand that.
There was a room to reject and then looking for another one?
I mean, the problem, look, it's not so simple to say, oh, well, they can just reject. If you had rejected, let's be realistic here, and let's understand the position of the government. If you had rejected, then Bulgaria could say, you see, they're the problem. They are the problem. We are the ones who want to make a compromise, and they're the ones who are making the problem. So it would not be so simple to just say, we reject this.
I'm just asking you because you were used, you were quoted by many who were against the agreement.
Well, look, let's be honest about this. This is not the Prespa agreement. This is not the Ohrid agreement. This is not an agreement in which the two sides come together and say, look, these are our issues and our concerns, and the other side says, and these are our concerns, we can do this, and we can do that. You already tried to do that. This is what's unfair about this. The process was not a fair process. This was a process which left Bulgaria in the advantage after the friendship agreement, Borian. So you had already signed a friendship agreement, and they do not respect the friendship agreement, and that's a fact. They do not act in the spirit of friendship. They act in the spirit of, we are EU, you're a candidate, we tell you what to do. That's not how Greece. That's not how Greece.
As a person with some diplomatic experience, at that time, including nowadays, do you think the better compromise would possible?
It's hard to say. The answer to that is we don't know, because we do not know how hard the EU and the US tried. We don't know the answer. The question is, how hard did they try? Did they go to Bulgaria? And remember, they had an opportunity in Bulgaria because Petkov had a positive attitude and position on this as prime minister. Petkov wants to solidify Bulgarian Western orientation. And you have a president, Radev, who's very problematic. You have other politicians in Bulgaria who are very problematic. Whether, I don't know as a fact, whether the United States and whether key European Union countries, whether they really went to Sofia and said, look, you know, we have to resolve this, and we cannot, you have to remember one other thing. This French proposal is very problematic for the European Union, not just for your country. It's problematic for the European Union. Why? Because they allowed Bulgaria to break the rule that you do not bring bilateral issues into the EU accession process. And they broke that rule, they created a precedent, and now this is a problem.
So we are where we are. What's the prospect now with this agreement?
Right,
Do you
here's
think,
the prospect.
Talking about the main question which was raised here, do you think that Macedonian identity and language are in danger?
You know, I have a very clear answer to that, Boriana, and I said this on Thursday at American University College, that keynote speech. I'm going to give you a very clear, precise answer to that. It's not for me or any outsider to say whether or not Macedonian identity is in danger. It's not for me to say, even if I have an opinion. Why? Because I'm not Macedonian. Identity is inherently subjective, and that's part of the problem here. You cannot have Bulgaria saying, oh, you know, language is Bulgarian and this is this. Because why? Because identity is a subjective concept. And it's for historians and experts to discuss. That's why the Friendship Agreement created historical commission.
No, do you think that Bulgaria, with this agreement, could deny existence of Macedonian language within EU?
If you ask, that's it. If you ask me the question differently, I cannot say if Macedonian identity is, and no outsider can, and neither I believe US or EU or anyone else can. Only Macedonian and the citizens of this country can determine that, in my opinion. Identity is subjective, but if you ask me, is it possible that Bulgaria can exploit this agreement and make more problems and demands? Is it possible that they can do that? The answer, of course, is yes, they could. Is it definite that they will make more problems and make more demands and make that? No, it's not definite that they will do this. Is it possible that they could be constrained and pressured from other countries from doing this? If the US and EU as well, even though the US is not EU, US has tremendous influence. It's possible that they could be constrained. But is there a risk? If you ask me, is there a risk? Anyone who would be honest would have to say yes.
You had a proposal, it publicly called on Macedonia to ask United States and the other international factors to recognize Macedonian identity and language in order to support, in order to, you know, to help us to, you know, to go through those fears.
Yes.
What's the idea?
Okay, the idea is very simple. Bulgaria challenges the Macedonian identity. We know that. Language, history, everything is, you know, they say essentially is Bulgarian. They challenge that. They want to have all of those issues as part of this accession process, which it shouldn't be that way. So we know that. And this agreement, the French proposal, I think any official being candid would acknowledge that it has its weaknesses and it has its risks. So if something is risky over here, then let's balance it. If Bulgaria is challenging Macedonian identity and US and EU have backed this French proposal, then have US and EU affirm. Bulgaria challenges the Macedonian identity, US and EU affirm the Macedonian identity, and they can do this in ways.
Which way? Officially, White House, State Department, which institutions? How it goes?
Very straightforward.
How you imagine?
It's very straightforward. It's not complicated at all, Boriana, and any citizen of this country can understand how. The State Department, through an official acknowledgement within the strategic partnership, Your country, which is a very positive step, you have very close relations with the United States. The United States is a strong supporter of your country
Hopefully, yeah.
and the unity and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of your country. Okay, U.S. under the strategic partnership, cultural elements are part of that. This is all already official umbrella for this. The U.S. under that can issue have an official acknowledgement of affirming the Macedonian identity, affirming a Macedonian language and culture, and the language for this, Borjan, the language, the words, I put this in this article in Foreign Policy back in June, the words can come straight out of the Prespa Agreement. In other words, it's simply copying and reaffirming what Greece already accepted. If it's good enough for Greece, it's good enough for the United States, and it should be good enough for Bulgaria as well. And so it's very simple. It's just very simple words that the United States
to isolate Bulgaria in a way in their attempt to deny.
The way I would put it is to give a backstop, a defense. It's to give a limit to how much Bulgaria can do. So Bulgaria makes these demands, and U.S. and EU countries can do this. Not the EU as an institution, because Bulgaria would block that. But individual EU states and the United Kingdom could do this. Very short, if the U.S. could be the leader and do this first.
So Macedonian diplomacy should take some steps towards.
I think so. I think it's very reasonable. Again, the U.S. and the EU, their responsibility. What was their responsibility? Their responsibility was to make maximum effort with Bulgaria. I don't know whether they did or not. That's for them to explain. But that was their responsibility. Their responsibility wasn't to say, you know, oh, Bulgaria is a member of the EU, it's too hard, so we'll just give them this and then we'll make the Macedonians accept this. That was not their responsibility. I don't know exactly. You have to ask them how hard they tried, what they tried to do, and whether Bulgaria accepted. Bulgaria is not Greece. Bulgaria is a weaker
idea, by the way.
Greece.
But okay, what's your understanding? We have started negotiation or not? The screening process is here, but we need a two-thirds majority in order to change the constitution, to include Bulgarians. So you have a contact with various influential persons here in Macedonia and in the diplomatic corps, the people who are influential. What's your prognosis? Are we going to find a two-thirds majority?
Look, I can make no better prognosis than the president of your country, Stevo Pendarovski, who I respect and I've known for many years. He said recently that right now they don't have the votes. So, but politics is fluid. And so I'm not here to make some concrete prediction that these votes never could be found. This is a strategic question.
Which means that Macedonia will never start the negotiation process.
That's right. So there are consequences either way. It's not easy, but that's not my point. It's about making predictions. This is not the time to make predictions. Where the focus should be is on convincing the citizens, not just finding some votes through some whatever methods in parliament. It's not about that. It's about reaching the citizens of this country, Albanian, Macedonian, and the others. It's about convincing the citizens of this country that this process is real and is going to make a difference. And they can do that by taking advantage, Borjan, of exactly what you said, this screening process. It's meant to be just some technical, but there's nothing stopping it from being substantive, from being real. And put together a package of laws, of changes to tackle corruption, the corruption that ordinary citizens know exists every day in this country, and to make that as part of this process.
It's endemic, and it's a cultural problem.
That's right. So we can make this technical screening process and give it a significance. And there's other things, Borjan, that we can do. We can do better as well. We can do a lot better for your country than Open Balkans. We can do a lot better than Open Balkans for your country.
That was my next question. You openly criticized Open Balkan Initiative. then, yeah, you're right. There are some dilemma about open Balkan process. But on the other side, it's we saw many other initiatives
Yes.
from European Union, other international organizations to intensify regional cooperation. But so far, almost all of those initiatives failed, including Berlin process. I mean, we know it's a kind of nice wording, but there is nothing out of it. So why not to give a chance to kind of very authentic, regionally authentic initiative?
I'll tell you the answer. First, let me give you the answer. Number one, it's not true that nothing came out of Berlin process. Roaming came out of Berlin process. If you go to Kosovo, if you go to Bosnia-Herzegovina, the roaming and you want to use the phone, this came out of Berlin process.
Nice,
not
yeah,
open Balkans.
That's the very first concrete result out of it.
So, but you have the precedent there. So if they can do roaming, they can do these other things under the umbrella of Berlin process. You get Europe's strongest economy in Berlin process. You get German leadership.
What they do.
But we will see what they will do. Look.
I mean, it's nice, as I said. It's a nice initiative.
Yeah, that's still. Right. But we can also ask, what has Open Balkans done? Jako malo, I can tell you. Jako malo.
I agree.
So, you know what? Someone told me.
I agree, but why not to give a chance?
I'll tell you why
because
not to give a chance.
We had given a chance for all other initiatives.
We have, but we have a concrete result. We have roaming from this, and we have a reason not to give it a chance. And the reason is Alexander Vučić, okay? This is not a leader who is leading his country to a democracy. This is a leader who, by the statements, this is not me as an American who says this. On Thursday I quoted, you have Vladeta Jankovic, who is the interim speaker of the Serbian parliament, who said on the floor of the Serbian parliament a speech just last month in August. It was called in Serbia a historic speech, because he said on the floor of the Serbian parliament, he said, essentially he said, we are an autocracy. We are not a democracy. It is this country, effectively, he said, our country, Serbia, is ruled according to the whims and wishes of one man, Alexander Vučić.
Autocracy or not, if they're our neighbors, we need a close cooperation on economic fields, on the other fields.
Listen, Borja, listen to me carefully what I'm trying to say to you, okay? Let me explain. I don't say that North Macedonia should have bad relations with Serbia. You can't afford bad relations with any of your neighbors. I don't recommend bad relations with Serbia or Albania, Bulgaria.
It's not up to us to point it out towards Vučić. He's a bad guy.
I know that. This is. Look, I'm not talking about it, and that's not your role. That's not your role. I'm telling you the reality. My job is to explain the reality. I said to think strategically, and you can do better than Open Balkans, and I'll tell you how. But you need our help. I understand that. You can't do this all yourselves, and I'm not telling you to do this all yourselves. But you need help, and your leaders can explain this to our leaders, to Americans and to European Union leaders. You can do better. And I don't want citizens to think, we have threat from Bulgaria, so we're safe with Serbia. You're not safe with Serbia. And let me explain why. And I want all your viewers to understand. You have very close relation. Open Balkans is built around Serbia and Albania, okay? And you have very close relationship between Vučić and Rama. And guess what you get with this? You have anti-democratic leader in Alexander Vučić, who revives Greater Serbia. Greater Serbia produces Greater Albania. And guess what? Greater Albania is fatal to North Macedonia. And I want to emphasize here, it's not that Albanians in this country are pushing.
Your point is that Rama is working on this agenda for Greater Albania?
I'm telling you, with the agenda that Rama is openly working on is a protecting Alexander Vučić. And so this I can say with a fact. Edi Rama, Prime Minister Edi Rama, is protecting Alexander Vučić, and I can tell you Alexander Vučić is working on a line of a Greater Serbia, which he calls Serb world. And he is destabilizing Kosovo, destabilizing Montenegro, destabilizing Bosnia-Herzegovina, all three countries. The only country he doesn't destabilize, do you know what that is? Croatia, because he can't. Because the Serb population in Croatia does not obey Belgrade.
because now they are part of the... But
and they're part of EU and
let's
part
go
of NATO.
back to the main question.
But he has a huge influence over Serb population in Bosnia and Herzegovina, in Montenegro, and in Kosovo. He created this recent unnecessary crisis over license plates in your neighbor, and you have an alternative, and Borjan, and I want to tell you what the alternative is.
Tell me.
Okay. I don't tell you that you should have bad relations with any of these countries. So if you're going to have this triangle, you're going to be part of this triangle between Tirana and Belgrade, and Skopje is part of this triangle. That is an unhealthy triangle. It's good you have relations, good relations with Tirana. It's good you have good relations with Belgrade. That's fine. It's the connection between Tirana and Belgrade that's very unhealthy, with Rama protecting Vučić, telling EU and US to stop pressuring Belgrade to join sanctions on Russia. This is a disgrace. And this is openly protecting Alexander Vučić for his pro-Russia policy. Let me tell you your alternative. Here's your alternative. So you have an unhealthy triangle here. You have this unhealthy triangle, Skopje, Tirana, Belgrade, unhealthy. You have an alternative. The alternative is the healthy triangle. Do you know what is the healthy triangle? Skopje, Pristina, Athens. Skopje, Pristina, Athens. This is the healthy triangle. Why? Because all three of these countries have the same interest: to keep the borders as they are. You've solved your relationship, your issues with Greece. They do not want your territory. They do not want to change your borders. They do not want Kosovo changing its borders.
By the way, how Greeks see the Open Balkan Initiative? This way, as you explained?
It's not for me to interpret the Greek position.
Your impression?
Okay, my impression is I think Greeks have a sophisticated understanding of the region, and I think Greece understands that Belgrade is playing a negative role. I think that they understand this. And one of the reasons why I think it's a good question, Greece has very good relations with Kosovo. They don't care what Belgrade has to say about that. They have very good...
But still do not recognize
They do not recognize, and that, in my view, that's the critical mistake. But they have, their foreign minister has indicated that actually there's no problem for them to recognize because it doesn't affect Cyprus. They've distinguished that. They pointed to the decision of the International Court of Justice on the Kosovo case, brought a case that Serbia instigated and wrote the question for, but the problem is Serbia doesn't like the answer it got.
Let's go back in the beginning of our conversation.
Yes.
Edward, what you are saying about Open Balkan, the consequences out of the Open Balkans, are just a result of Balkan and the region being undermined by Brussels especially. So if there is no clear prospect for EU membership, and there is not still. So yeah, that's this uncertainty in about the European prospect. It's open all other kind of alternatives like we talk about.
Borjan, let me qualify that. First, I want to emphasize this healthy triangle. Let me quickly emphasize this. Some of this is in your capacity, within your government's capacity. This road to Pristina, this is strategic importance for your country. It's important. Your country has to have its own connection with Pristina, Skopje, Pristina, and with Athens as part of this. And Athens can play the critical role because it's the larger country, it's the richer country, it's a member of EU as well as NATO, and Greece, and the relations between Greece and the United States are very strong and positive, and they have a very sophisticated understanding. So this is the healthy triangle. Build your relationship with Pristina, and build your relationship with Greece.
I understood the point.
And business, developing your own business context. I can do that. But go ahead, please, ask your question again. I'll answer it.
No, the point is, what do you think that these tectonic changes in the continent, in geopolitical terms, are going to change something in Brussels and the member states to understand that they should take some very concrete steps in order to integrate Balkans and, let's say, to put, and of all other options which still turning around?
It's a great question that you put your finger, and you put your finger on it, because the answer is yes. The tectonic changes that we saw, and let's remember Finland and Sweden
Joined NATO.
joining
Okay,
NATO.
yeah.
These were neutral countries, Germany, and you're right. The way they do, I believe, in Europe, major European capitals, in Paris, in Berlin, in Brussels, and others, they do understand more now than they did before.
But they're still hesitant.
Yes, but they do understand more now, but they haven't changed enough. But let me answer one thing. There is a prospect for European Union membership. I believe Montenegro is the country that has closed the most chapters, that has the furthest along, and I believe that they would accept Montenegro. But they have internal issues in Montenegro, and again, Alexander Vučić creates a lot of those problems. Not all of them, but a lot of those problems are responsible. So I believe the European Union would accept Montenegro, and if Montenegro got a date, this would be very positive for the entire region. So I'm not one of those. I'm not one of those people who says EU accession is all dead. They want to make some changes on their decision-making process in Europe, but we are talking about opening the EU accession process. That doesn't threaten any of these countries. And I think that they do understand that failure to be serious about the Balkans is opening the door for Vladimir Putin. Look at the situation in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Very tense. We have elections coming up there. Very tense. Look at the situation in
How do you understand this proposal of French President Macron about the geopolitical union?
What, the political community?
Yeah.
It's a mistake. This is...
so it's a kind of alternative for our membership, or...
It's a mistake. This is some...
yeah, it's a mistake, but if we are talking about the French president, I mean, we are not talking about the think tank from
I understand. It's
Lithuania.
It's a mistake. It's his political venture. Look, and we can guess whether it's Macron because he wants France to have some unique role, or because it's Macron because he's afraid, wants an alternative for EU membership. It's a mistake, and I hope it will go nowhere, and that I hope it certainly will have no relevance for the Balkans. The Balkans already have every single country, including Kosovo, which is not recognized by 5 EU countries. Every single country has a formalized relationship with the EU. And your country is already a candidate. And so we don't need this. This is, if they want to do something with Eastern Partnership, Armenia, and these countries, something like this, if he wants to use this as some kind of a building bridge, okay. But it's very dangerous. It's also dangerous geopolitically, because we should not be signaling to Putin any fear. Mm-hmm. We should be signaling confidence, unity.
Yeah, okay. Well, it means that Brussels suddenly should appear in the region and be visible.
Yes.
Constructing roads, helping people.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Find a way out of the misery.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but we have to understand. Look, part of it is money and investment, and look, you have this electricity crisis, and you're going to need financial assistance from the EU to help us. But in exchange, you have to make changes that tackle corruption. In my opinion, you should not, no money without changes on fighting corruption. So that's number one. But number two, I come back to this, US and EU. It's not just EU, it's also US.
What about the US, by the way?
Yes, we have. We have a mistaken policy. Look, this is what I'm saying.
What's their intention? To give up Balkans to the EU and it's Europe, it's up to you? Or they see that Europe is not able to make some very, changes in substance, and they will going to engage in a proper way? What's the plan?
The plan is halfway. It's not complete. It's a halfway plan. I believe in Washington, they understand that it's a mistake, and it always was a mistake, to say it's a European problem. That's a mistake. I believe that they understand that. I believe that the Biden administration understands that there's a unique role for the United States in the region. I believe that. But they haven't gone far enough. And I come back to this again. They overcomplicate this region. Oh, there's all these complex issues, Croats.
Washington will move forward?
Well, I'm not going to predict, because so far they don't accept my key recommendation. This is a problem. Let's not make this so complicated. Most of this, you have a particular problem with Bulgaria. We'll leave that.
What was your key recommendation, by the way?
Look, you got to tackle Serbia, okay? There's no stability in this region if Serbia with an undemocratic Serbia, okay? I'll say that to the viewers. There's no stability in this region with an anti-democratic Serbia, and that's what you have with Alexander Vučić. And this is the problem of former Yugoslavia. We're at the same problem back where we were. When Yugoslavia falls apart, what will happen in the countries where you have Serbs who live outside of Serbia? Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Montenegro, Kosovo, okay? And we haven't solved that. And we have I'm going to say this is the key problem in the region. We have a very weak posture. America and the European Union, we have a very weak posture when it comes to Belgrade, when it comes to Alexander Vučić.
Both Washington and Brussels believe that they could resolve the Kosovo question with Vučić?
They can because
with Vučić.
They can. It's not about Vučić. This is about any Serbian leader. The answer. The answer is this.
Talking about Vučić the way you talk,
yes,
do you believe that Vučić is going to accept independence of Kosovo?
The way I'm going to tell you how to deal with Vučić. The way to deal with Vučić is to erode his leverage. This is the way to deal with Vučić. It's to stop praising him, to stop saying, as some prominent senior U.S. officials have said, stop saying that Serbia is on the right path. Stop saying that Serbia is a political and economic leader. As recently as July, a senior U.S. official was saying Serbia is on the right path.
And everybody did.
It is not on the right path. It is protecting Russia. These UN General Assembly resolutions, these are not a concession by Serbia. Those resolutions, they back them because they see them protecting Serbia's position on Kosovo, because those resolutions talk about the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, and they say, and we have our own sovereignty and territorial integrity with Kosovo, and the two cases are not comparable at all. And this is what Putin is saying. So we are making a mistake, Borjan. We, the U.S. and the EU, we're making a mistake. There's a leader in Belgrade. There's a leader in Belgrade.
Huge list of mistakes.
There's a leader in Belgrade who promotes the Russian agenda, who has Sputnik Serbia, Serbian platforms for media that pollute the entire region, including your country. So we are making a mistake, and the way to deal with Alexander Vučić is very simple. It's very simple. Take away his leverage. His leverage is the non-recognition by only 4 countries. It's Greece, Spain, Slovakia, and Romania. It's those 4 countries. And we should be working with Greece. Greece has already showed that this is not a problem. It doesn't affect Cyprus. Cyprus can be protected. We should be working with Greece. We should ask Spain and Slovakia to return their troops.
But you know it.
To know that this is what they can do. Let me finish.
It's not going to work.
Let me finish. This is entirely plausible. They could do this tomorrow. We should ask Spain and Slovakia to return their troops to KFOR. And note this. The other 2 countries, Greece and Romania, never took their troops out of Kosovo. So we know it's not true for Spain and Slovakia. It's not true that if you have troops in KFOR that you recognize Kosovo. It's not true. And they should send these troops back. It can be even a small number. And they have a very good reason to do it, because Ukraine had to send its troops from KFOR back to Ukraine to defend their country against this unprovoked Russian aggression, invading their country. And they're heroes. Ukrainians are heroes. And the Russians, and people should know this in your country, Vladimir Putin is a weak leader, and he's an incompetent leader, and he doesn't care about his own people or his own soldiers. And they're getting killed in significant numbers. So don't support and don't align yourself with a weak and incompetent leader. Do not do that. So that's a mistake by people to support that. And instead, you have a much better option, and we have a better option. we have to erode Alexander Vucic's leverage, the leverage over Kosovo, leverage over Montenegro, leverage over Bosnia-Herzegovina. And that helps your country. That helps your country. It also isolates Bulgaria. The more progress in the region, the harder it will be for Bulgaria to make all of these problems. They will be more exposed.
Still, we didn't, I didn't have an answer. Do you think that Washington and Brussels will move forward?
I think that they are trying to move forward. I think they are trying.
I mean, they're trying.
Yes, look, they're trying. Look, I'm not going to say that the U.S. and Biden administration are doing nothing on the Balkans. That they're not. It's not true. The Biden administration is engaged in the Balkans. And the European Union is engaged in the Balkans. I believe that they do understand that the region has higher importance now than it did before February 24th. What I'm saying is they have a weak strategy towards the biggest problem. And the biggest problem is Serbia under Alexander Vucic. And I don't believe they did enough against Bulgaria. They did not do enough pressure on Bulgaria, in my opinion. They have to explain what they did. I do not believe that they were either. It's not that complicated. When we come down to it, Borjan, you have to unify U.S. and EU and bring your influence on Sofia and on Belgrade. And if you do that, the rest is manageable. The rest is manageable. We've proved in this country issues between ethnic Albanians and ethnic Macedonians, you proved in this country. They're manageable. They're manageable, those issues. And issues between Croats and Bosniaks in Bosnia-Herzegovina, those are manageable issues, but not if Serbs under Milorad Dodik reject the country. If they reject the country, you will not have
What is going to determine the further developments is the aggression of Russia in Ukraine. What's the solution? It's pretty much.
I will tell you the solution. No, it's not.
It's very complicated now.
It's not.
What is going to be? I mean,
some things. Look, it's a difference, Borjan, between saying a problem is hard and saying a problem is complicated. It's not complicated. It's not complicated at all. The more unified the world is, and extending beyond the United States, European Union, and NATO, which are totally unified, really unified. The differences, I'm not buying any of this, that, there are all these differences. The amount of unity is much bigger than disagreements and various things on all of the main issues, and even Macron, who always is talking, we can't humiliate Russia. Even he on floor of UN. So we have unity. So it's not complicated.
Doesn't matter how far we are united.
Yes,
the world.
It does. Yes, it does. Yes, it
Putin,
does. Let me tell you.
He's going to leave the power.
No. Listen. It does. It does. Because it has everything
and stop
to do.
the war by saying, okay, well, it was a mistake. I took my troops back in Moscow.
No, listen, boy, it's a good question you asked, but there's a good answer to it as well. I don't say it's easy, but it's not complicated. We need global unity, and we saw some of that, Borjan. We saw some of that in a recent meeting in Uzbekistan, what they call the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We saw China, Xi Jinping, and we saw India under Prime Minister Modi, both signaling very strongly, signaling their criticism of Vladimir Putin. And we saw Modi.
It's a high time, but
yes,
still.
It's high time, but it's a good time.
Yeah.
But it's also a good time. And they said, and you heard Modi, this is not an era for war, and we heard Xi Jinping also clearly signaling. Vladimir Putin is not some grand power that he can defy the entire world. He is not. He is a weak, incompetent leader who does not care about his own people. We know that. And it's a system that is corrupt from the top to the bottom, thoroughly corrupt from the top to the bottom. And that's part of their weakness. It's part of their weakness that Ukrainians are beating them on the battlefield. And that's what your citizens here need to know. Why, don't align with a corrupt Russia with its soldiers who are running away from Ukrainians. You should align with the Ukrainians and the Americans and the Germans and NATO who are supporting this right cause that's going to prevail. General Petraeus, General David Petraeus, the most respected U.S. general in generation, he predicts that a Russian defeat is inevitable. A Ukrainian victory is inevitable.
In which way? By the coup in Moscow? Or?
No, wait. He doesn't say it's easy. But look, Vladimir Putin faced with a certain, he's already, we see the cracks. We see the cracks. He's going to partial mobilization. He's trying now, he said special military operation. Even he now is essentially saying tacitly that this is a war.
Are you afraid of the nuclear eruption, having in mind the mental state of Vladimir Putin?
Okay, look, this is my answer to that. We know how destructive nuclear weapons are, so anyone who is rational has to be afraid. If a country, this is why they're so dangerous. This is why it's so dangerous that North Korea has them. It would be so dangerous why Iran has it. So we have to be afraid. Of course we have to be afraid. But at the same time, we have to understand the consequences of not standing up to him, of giving in to nuclear threats. So we cannot allow, it's just as dangerous. It's just as dangerous to give in to nuclear threat, to say, oh my God, he has nuclear weapons, we better give him what he wants. There'll be no end to nuclear blackmail. So that's not an option either. The answer is what we're doing. And President Biden, I believe, has put into place a sound with his allies, and in some cases led by Europeans, and very strong. We have to be unified. That's the whole key, is the unity. It's not some joke. It's the unity. We have to, this winter will be difficult. We know the inflation, we know the cost of energy, cost of other goods. This is all because of Vladimir Putin, but we have to hang together. We cannot say, oh, the price of gas is too much. I'll give, what do we care about Ukraine? We can't, the consequences are too serious. So we have to stay strong and united, and he will quit in some way. There is always a way out. He controls the media. You're a journalist. Do you just report everything that Kovachevsky says and Penderovsky says, and you never make any criticism of it? So it's not that situation. You know, are you afraid to make some criticism of the government here? Oh my gosh, I can't say anything. I'll go to, they'll throw me in jail.
I used to.
Maybe you used to under Gruevsky. Maybe it was like that. You know, and they did very serious. This is a reminder of why you have to protect your own democracy here. But they don't have that. He controls you. If you were in Moscow, you were under total control of Vladimir Putin.
We see how it is.
If Vladimir Putin tells you, you're the journalist, if you get this, if his guys come to you and say, here, Boryan, here's the news tonight. And the news, you read the news, and the news tonight is, and you're there, Boryan Yovanovsky, you say, good evening, everyone. Russia has now won the war in Ukraine. We have our victory, and we now control all that we need to control, and everything
saying lies,
is great.
maybe. Okay,
yes.
yeah.
And
okay.
you can do that. And that person, your equivalent in Moscow, they can do that. And look, will he take some risk for that inside Russia? Will he have some? Yeah, but that's his problem. That's his problem, because and he has to at some point. This is the belief, and the belief is he's rational in the end. He's not some suicide bomber, you know, who in Afghanistan, you know, who's putting on Al Qaeda, putting on some vest. He's not putting on some vest. He has.
Is it going to ask for a political solution or political agreement, or?
Yeah, he can accept it. He can accept it and say, of course he can. Of course he can do a political agreement. Of course he can. He's a dictator. Why can't he do a political agreement?
Which means to withdraw completely from Ukraine, because the Ukrainians now, they're not going to give up any of the territories, including Crimea.
Well, this is why you have capable diplomats. I myself, I can come up with lots of solutions that give him some appearance of something, but that do not weaken Ukraine. There's all sorts of solutions. Look, I found a solution 10 years ago. Exactly 10 years ago in Kosovo, to have Serbian elections in Kosovo. I found a solution. We used OSCE as a cover for Serbian elections. And after Albanians said they will never have Serbian elections in our country, and Serbs said, we will never have our elections be run under Pristina by Kosovo. And I found a solution myself. I was deputy head of the OSCE mission. I went to Belgrade and in Pristina, and I negotiated a solution. We put it under flag of OSCE. And it worked. It lasted for 10 years until just recently. So you can find there's always a solution. If Vladimir Putin wants it, and he will want it if we are all unified, because he's going to lose. He's losing already. His military cannot keep up with the sophistication and the morale. And the morale, he is sending troops, Russian troops that are there either because of money, or they're let out of prison,
and they're losing motivation,
or they're forced to go.
Edward
and
Џозеф.
Ukrainians are going there because they want to defend their country.
Yeah. Edward Џозеф, always a pleasure to talk to you.
Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you to be my guest.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure all mine.
All mine. Thank you.
Почитувани гледачи, тоа беше Едвард Џозеф. Ви благодарам за вниманието и до гледање.